All right. It looks like we finally got this working today. Let's make sure that the mic is working. If y'all are hearing us through the YouTube Live or the Facebook Live or the X Live or the TikTok Live, there's so many different places that we're streaming live right now. Like, give me a thumbs up, give me a little bit, give me a heart, give me a like, give me a something so that I know that y'all are hearing us okay. And I apologize for starting late today. Definitely had some little frustrating technical difficulties here. And I think there's still one channel on Facebook that's probably not getting us right now. And we'll just have to take care of that next Sunday, I guess. But if you're here with us right now, thank you so much for waiting and thank you for being here. So, I want to start this meeting off with an important story. Now, I have been talking to the Lord for a while now about the easiest way to explain the root causes to people for their chronic illnesses. So, it there is so much deception and confusion um, in our minds when we're suffering with a chronic illness, when we've got an autoimmune disease, when we have cancer, any of these things, there's so much suffering, there's so much confusion. And my goal today is to tell you this story so that hopefully this will help you to understand better. And I hope that it really opens your eyes because when the Lord gave me this story, I knew, "Oh, okay, this is perfect. This is exactly what I've been praying for." So here's the story, and it's going to be in 3 different layers. That's how I'm gonna tell this story. So I'm gonna tell the story first through, and then we're gonna have a deeper layer, and that's when we're gonna start discussing the real root causes of illness, and then we're gonna go 1 layer deeper. And I hope by the time that we get to that 3rd layer of the story, that your eyes are gonna pop wide open. I hope you start crying because you're so filled with hope that you realize that, yes, there is something you can do. Yes, there is absolutely a better way than simply using conventional medicine. And please don't hear me say that conventional medicine and pharmaceuticals are all bad because they're certainly not, and there is a place for them, but precision and functional medicine have a much bigger role to play in the evolution of medicine right now. And that's what we're in. We're very much in the evolution of medicine where many, many, many hundreds of thousands of people are healing from severe chronic illnesses. But there's still such a lack of information out there for people. And there's a lot of confusing information. So I hope that by walking through this story, it's going to really help you and you can take this story with you and you can really get it and then start working on your root causes. All right. So here's the story. The story goes like this. There is there's a little girl. It's a beautiful spring day in the middle of the Ozarks, Missouri. Yeah, I pick it cuz, that's where I live and it's just so beautiful here and I just love it. So she's playing along the banks of a stream, and the stream is just gorgeous, and it's just a little stream, and mama's nearby, it's okay, the little girl, she's maybe 5, she's got a cute little dress on, and she's just playing by the stream, and she happens to have this little boat, and it's just a little boat, nothing fancy, and she starts playing with it by the stream. And the boat kind of gets away from her and she doesn't think too much of it because she's having so much fun watching the boat kind of just float, nicely in the stream. But, she wants to play with the boat a little bit, and she's just a little kid, she don't know any better. So she starts throwing some rocks at the boat, and she's really just trying to get the boat back, so she's, poking at it with a stick, and she's, trying to reach it, and she's then starts throwing all kinds of other stuff, thinking that, well, if she just, blocks the stream, then she'll be able to somehow get the boat back, right? But she's just a little kid, she don't know any better, right? So so it doesn't work, and the boat just kind of goes down the stream. Now, the little girl in, you know, in her, in her little kid mind, she don't know any better. So she's throwing more things into the stream. And she's throwing rocks and sticks, and then she starts, throwing trash and different things and, things that she can find, right? But, the boat still goes downstream a little ways further. And eventually, the boat kind of disappears from her sight, and mama calls her in to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And, she forgets about the boat and goes on with her day. Now, downstream a little bit farther, there is a construction site. And the construction site is throwing a bunch of, just construction debris, you know, big boulders, big like cement and a whole bunch of dirt and just all kinds of junk, the clay that they're digging up and old nails and pieces of wood and just all kinds of stuff is being thrown into this little stream. And that kind of makes the boat go through a little bit of rapids. It kind of gets stuck on some of these pieces and then it breaks free and then because there's so much in the water, it keeps getting hit by things and over again. It just keeps getting hit by things but it's still okay. Like it goes down the stream a little bit farther. It gets past that. Now, down the stream a little ways further, way down from the construction site, you can barely see the construction site anymore. You certainly can't see the little girl anymore. She's long gone. Now there's some pretty big boulders. There was a little avalanche. There's some, like big boulders that got in the way of the stream. And it was, kind of for a little time there, right? And so all these different boulders, and what that did is that created a whole lot of rapids. So, like if you've ever been kayaking and, whenever you get to those places, if there's nothing in the water, then you just kind of float along, everything's fine, no problem. But as soon as there's like these big boulders and things like that in the water, that creates the rapids. And now your kayak is kind of all over the place, right? Just, you know, bumping into the rocks and, you can get flipped and there's all kinds of stuff happening. So this is the same thing is happening to this little boat and it keeps getting more and more insults. It keeps getting damaged more and more. Like the sail on it is getting ripped and there's little pieces of wood that's kind of breaking off of it, and of course the paint is getting chipped. I mean, this poor little boat is really going through a lot. And but it gets past the rapids and it's doing okay. It's just, it's a little beat up, but it's still doing okay. It's still floating amazingly. It's still floating. And so it flows a little ways further, and things are pretty calm for a little while. But then it goes by a chemical plant. And the chemical plant is dumping all kinds of poisons into the water, and lots of poisons into the water. And, you know, when that's happening, it's totally like stripping the paint off of the boat. It's even starting to eat away a little bit at the parts on the boat, the little plastic parts and stuff, because the poisons are like solvents and they're just, really bad. And so, you know, okay, the boat keeps going. All right. Then there's another area of rapids that hit. There's a bunch more boulders that happened, only this time it was like a full-blown landslide. It was just like, what a disaster. It blew out a bridge, and there was just all kinds of debris from this horrible landslide, and that the bridge was broken, and there's all this just really bad debris and all the mess, and this boat is like, oh, it's just stuck in this mess, and it's such a mess. This poor boat by this time is, barely floating, still floating, but just barely floating. And it's really beat up. Now, some really nice campers saw the boat after this whole disaster and wanted to try to save the boat, wanted to try to get the boat. Okay. And so they pulled the boat. They were able to, get a net, and they pulled the boat out of the water. And, they put like a couple of patches on it. They wrapped it with some tape and, put some duct tape on it, and they made a little makeshift sail for it, even though it was pretty rickety. But they just tried to tape things back together, and then they put the boat back in the water, thinking that, okay, well, this is a good place for a boat to live. You want to play with the boat, right? You want the boat to live in the water. Okay. Now, can anyone, if you, and you can put this in the chat, or if anyone is wanting to come and talk to me here on the the live stream in the Riverside. By the way, anybody can come into the Riverside. Let me go ahead and make sure that everyone has that link, just in case you didn't get your link. I know the automation always sends it out to you when you sign up. And if you are watching this and you have not signed up, the sign up link is at risehealchallenge.com. That's risehealchallenge.com. And if you want to come into the Riverside Room, you can come in to ask me questions. I can talk to you personally. We could talk about your health issues. That's what we're here to do. And so let me go ahead and put the Riverside link into the chat. So we are live in several different rooms right now. We're live on X, on YouTube. It looks like one of the Facebooks is working. Looks like one of them is not working. And we're also supposed to be on TikTok as well. Although, honestly, I don't even know whether that one's working or not yet, because we had such crazy technical issues before I got started today. So if anyone is on any of those live streams and you'd like to come in here and talk to me a little bit and ask questions, you can please come on in. Talk to me in the chat, and I will let you in if you want to come in and talk to me directly on the live stream. All right. So you got the story. I'm sure, because you guys are all really intelligent. I know that you're getting it when it comes to the whole chronic illness thing. But I want to go the second layer now. And I want to start to talk to you about what some of those root causes are, where your disease sits, who you are in this story, right? And so I'm sure that everyone here gets it that you are the boat, right? You are the boat when you have chronic illness. And obviously, you've been through a lot when you're the boat, right? And here's what I want you to understand. And this is not the world according to Dory, okay? This is the scientific information that we know right now in August of 2026, okay? In case you're watching this years down the line. In August of 2026, here's what we know. Your disease, whether it's a full-blown autoimmune disease like lupus or scleroderma or Crohn's or Hashimoto's or Graves or any of the, more severe chronic illnesses that we see today, even things like Parkinson's, severe dementia, even Alzheimer's, okay? All of these are at the very end of the stream. The very end, not the beginning. The very end of the stream. And those people that were pulling the boat out of the water after the bridge and, all of the all of the whole disaster, okay? Those are your doctors. Those are people who, um, unless they're a really, really awesome doctor who's taken scientific training in functional and precision medicine, and they're scientists, and, you know, they're not just MDs. In other words, they are PhD MDs, or they're right, or they have a master's on top of their medical degree, or they've just been to functional medicine school as part of their training, right? This is after they graduate from medical school. Okay. And I'm not just talking about MDs, I'm talking about nurse practitioners, anyone really in the health field. Most of the people in the health field in conventional medicine right now, they're kind of putting duct tape on the boat. Now, that duct tape helps, doesn't it? Doesn't it? But is it doing anything about all the other things? Is it doing anything about the poison that's still in the water, the rocks that are still in the water, the trash that's still in the water, the debris that's still in the water? Is it doing anything about those things? And when they put the boat back in that water that is still loaded with all of that craziness, are they really helping you completely the way that science says they could? And the answer is no. Telling you that right now, the answer is no, because I'm one of those hundreds of thousands of people who have healed completely, almost, just a little bit left that I have to manage, a tiny bit. And I only have to manage it, when I cheat on my diet, when I'm not a good girl. So putting duct tape on the boat and putting it back in that water that's just loaded with all the craziness, is that really helping you? Now let's go back. Let's go back a little bit further, because I promised you we're going to do a second layer of this story. So I'm going to tell the story again, only this time I'm going to tell the story from the point of view of equating the root causes and all the various different root causes in the strength that we typically see them, how chronic illness typically develops. Okay. And this is according to the science that we know right now. Okay. So I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of the story. All right. Little girl, cute dress. She's in the Ozarks having fun on a spring day. She puts the boat in the water. The boat gets a little bit away from her and she starts throwing little things at it. She starts like trying to get the boat, poking at the stick, with a stick, right? Throwing little rocks at it. Okay. This is representing the beginning of this whole, what we call the domino effect of chronic illness, which starts with metabolic disorder. Now, I just used a big word that not everybody really understands what metabolic disorder is. So I want to make sure I explain. Metabolic disorder is like if you had a Lamborghini in your garage and you wanted to drive that Lamborghini. Yeah, you do, because it's bright red and it's just wow. And it goes vroom when you start it up, and it's just an amazing machine. It's an amazing machine, and you just love it. But you go to turn on the engine, and nothing happens. And why is that? You didn't put any gas in it. No gas, no go. Okay? Well, this is metabolic disorder. Now, it's not black and white like that. But it is if you don't have enough energy, right? If you don't have enough gas in your Lamborghini, and by the way, you are a Lamborghini. God made you a Lamborghini, a gorgeous machine, an amazing machine, a healing machine, right? A machine that, right, you are an amazing creation of God with purpose, with power, with strength. Oh, don't get me started on that little rabbit trail. Okay. Let's go back to what metabolic disorder is. It's a machine that doesn't have enough energy. Okay. And that has everything to do with your mitochondrial cells. And I don't know why they give, medical names such crazy things that then people have to go, "Oh, what?" But just suffice it to say, they're called mitochondria, and they're cells inside of most of your cells. And every place where you need a lot of energy, which is pretty much every cell, most cells in your body need energy, right? But especially cells like your eyes, your heart, your brain, they use a lot of energy. Your muscles, they have the most mitochondria in those cells. Okay. And those mitochondria are very sensitive little creatures. And they do not need rocks thrown at them. They do not need sticks poked at them. Okay. And most of the time, those little rocks and sticks have to do with toxins of some kind. Okay. Now, this is science. Okay. This is not disputed. We know that as different various toxins, whether they're chemical toxins like heavy metals or plastics or stuff that you're exposed to in the water, in the air, on your food, or whether they are living toxins like virus, overgrown bacteria, spirochetes that cause Lyme disease, protozoa, amoebas, parasites, all kinds of crazy little critters. Okay. They produce toxins too. Okay. So, really, you can think of the little girl poking her boat with sticks and throwing some rocks at it. That's the very beginning of the domino effect of metabolic disorder. Okay. it's causing a little bit of damage to your mitochondrial cells. And those rocks and those sticks are some kind of toxin. And usually, that's not always this way, but usually in society that we live in today with the epidemic of chronic disease that we see, we can really take that back to, well, what was mama eating when she was pregnant with the baby? How many toxins did mama have in her body that then got into the baby before the baby was born? And by the way, there's several studies done on this that show that brand newborn babies born today, you can find over 200 really nasty chemicals and toxins in these brand new little babies. Okay. And that's because of the world that we live in. And don't you think that that is harming the mitochondrial cells? Yes, it is. It definitely is. So when the mitochondrial cells are unhappy for whatever reason, um, they become senescent cells. We play with that name a little bit. And we call them zombie cells because they're kind of still alive, but they're creating all kinds of havoc. They're really producing a lot of inflammation. And that's not only true about your mitochondrial cells, it's true about all cells that get insults to them. Um, they just kind of get sick and then they start producing a lot of inflammation. And, the reason why they do that is a little complex, too complex for this video today. But when suffice it to say that when the immune system sees that a cell either has toxins in the membrane or toxins that have traversed the membrane or there's some kind of damage to the cell because maybe the cell didn't get all the nutrients that it needs. Now, the cell looks like it needs to go. It's not doing its job anymore. It needs to get fired. It really does. It's not doing its job. And so the immune system comes and it does this thing called apoptosis. And that just means that it's going to kill that cell. And then your bone marrow can produce another cell. Okay. And this is called cellular regeneration. So I've been kicked off of YouTube and I've had my videos like because I said the word cellular regeneration, which is just basic biology. Okay. You can open up any, junior high school age biology book and see autophagy, mitophagy, cellular regeneration. It's like, come on, people. Anyway, I won't get off on that tangent. Okay. So the very beginning upstream when the little girl is throwing the rocks and poking the sticks and all that, she's that's causing the mitochondrial damage that is causing the lack of energy because mitochondria produce all your energy. They produce the ATP that give your cells the energy that they need to do the work, the various different jobs that they have to do throughout your body. Okay. All right. So we got that. Now, you go downstream a little bit and different insults start happening to this poor little boat. Okay. Now, the next step, usually in the process of developing a chronic illness, is it can be toxins coming in mostly from your food. Now, scientists are saying, and there's various different opinions, but scientists are saying that about 50% of your toxic overload, and look, everybody's got some level of toxic overload. Okay. That if you have a chronic illness, we know you have some toxic overload. We know you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sick. It's really the toxins that are the main drivers in chronic illness. And I know there's a lot of other reasons, but you just need to know that overall, the prevailing science is there are toxins involved. Okay. Now, about 50% of those toxins are coming in on the foods that you're eating, the water that you're drinking, the soil that your fruits and vegetables were grown in. Okay. Um, like none of that is your fault. So you can kind of think of that as um, the construction site throwing things into the water and it's hitting the boat, right? That's not, like the little girl has nothing to do with that, right? Um, that's just right. That's just things that happen. The toxic world that we live in. The boat, is right in the middle of this toxic soup. I hope that makes sense to you. But as more and more of the toxins build up in the body, now those rocks that were thrown in, they're causing some rapids, right? And this is the beginning of the symptoms that we start seeing. And the reason why we start seeing symptoms, the rapids represent inflammation. Okay? The topsy turvy, the feeling one symptom one day, but it going away the next, the back and forth, the, well, I feel great today, but for some reason, 2 days ago, I was wiped. Gosh, I couldn't even get up out of bed and I felt horrible. And I don't know why. I don't understand. That's the rapids. That's the, there are times when you're in a kayak and you're going down rapids. There are times when it's smooth, right? Those times when you feel better, when the inflammation is lower. And then there are times when, for whatever reason, the inflammation got higher. There's more rocks, there's more debris in the water, there's more toxins of some kind, right? And boom, more inflammation, and then you feel worse. And you're like, but I didn't eat anything different, or, you're trying to figure it out. You're like, it's that one thing. What is that one thing that's causing me to have this symptom? And it doesn't work that way. And that's why you're so confused. That's why you're racking your brain trying to figure this out. And you're Googling at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're scaring yourself half to death because you have to understand that all those different insults along the way of the river, you have to understand that they're all different types of toxins on the body that the immune system says, nope, 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 this won't fly. This will not fly. I'm not going to put up with this. I'm going to get rid of those cells because they're loaded with toxins or they're just not working right. Now, as you go down the stream, understand that these different insults can be different things depending on different people. Okay. But everybody's got some toxins as part of a chronic illness. Mhm. And everybody has some cellular deficiencies. Okay. So when I say deficiency, that means things that you're lacking, things that you just simply don't have enough of for whatever reason. Right. And it could be lots of reasons. It could be you just don't eat right. It could be you just don't eat the right foods that match your particular genetics because your genes are a certain way and they might be a little wonky and you might need to do some things differently as far as your food and your lifestyle practices to get those to work better. You might need some extra supplementation there or whatever. There's lots of reasons to fix genetic deficiencies. Okay. But just your cells just don't have everything they need, right? Maybe you lived a life growing up eating chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese. And lots of potatoes and lots of sugar. And you've done that for years on end. Years on end. So, how are you, right? You know, you've got mitochondrial damage now, you've got cellular damage from the toxins coming in on those foods, and then you've got the deficiencies because now your gut starts to get messed up. And when when your gut starts to get messed up, your gut is like the hub that does so many different things throughout your body. Number one, those trillions of microbiome cells that live in your gut, they're not even your cells. They're all different kinds of bacteria and, protozoa and even helpful viruses, even helpful parasites. Okay. There's lots of good stuff in your gut, trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of these things. And they need to be healthy too. And when they're not, it causes problems with the gut that then makes the immune system react even more. And now you have even more rapids, even more inflammation. I hope you're getting this. I hope you're starting to understand that your chronic disease, whatever you call it right now, whether it's cancer, whether it's an autoimmune disease, whether it's not yet diagnosed as an autoimmune disease, but yet you've got so many symptoms and yet your labs are still showing normal, but you know you're not normal. You know there's something wrong. Yeah, because there is. And you have to know that it's because of all these different insults from many different toxins, even things like lifestyle practices where you've not prioritized sleeping properly, right? Or you've not prioritized exercising, or you've not prioritized, keeping your stress level low, or your relationships are a mess, right? There are a lot of reasons that all those different things that I explained of things getting thrown into the water, thrown into the water, thrown into the water. A lot of reasons. Okay. And now by the time you get all the way down to the place where, poisons are being thrown in the water in our story, those are usually more and more buildup of poisons that are coming from various overgrowths in the gut microbiome. And that's one of the reasons why functional medicine says, hey, all illness starts in the gut, but it really doesn't. I mean, we used to believe that 10, 15 years ago in functional medicine, but now the science is very clear that really it starts way upstream with the mitochondrial damage when energy production gets lower and lower and lower. And that is because of various different toxins. And remember that toxins can be either things coming in on your food, or they can be, some kind of an insult like you got bit by a tick or whatever. COVID vaccines, having COVID. Okay. There are so many different things that cause mitochondrial damage. And along with that, not eating right, the lifestyle practices, not sleeping right, not exercising, just generally not knowing how to take care of your body, because no one ever taught us how to do this growing up in school, right? It's one of the reasons why our 501c3 that we're starting is all about being able to go into schools and teach children and mamas and daddies how to take better care of their bodies, how to know their genetics, how to know what cellular deficiencies they have, how to know what toxins they're carrying, how to remove them, all of that, right? But okay, I get ahead of myself. I get really ahead of myself. So, all right. So by the time you have all those different insults and the gut gets really involved, by now the gut is really upset. It's getting really involved. All the different trillions of bugs are completely out of alignment. There's not enough of the good bugs, and there's too many of the ones that are overgrown, and then some bad bugs come in, and By the way, I know this gets a little confusing, but that's what makes it easier for people to get things like chronic Epstein-Barr virus, chronic Lyme disease, chronic CMV, chronic COVID, long-term COVID. Okay. It's because you've already got those previous problems that already happened upstream by the time you get bit by the tick or by the time you get exposed. I hope that makes sense. Because if you got that same bite by the tick way upstream, back where you were with the little girl, you know, and your boat was still, you know, in really good shape, and you didn't have all these toxic insults, okay, you'd be able to fight that Lyme disease off no problem. You would. And so when you get down to that place, by the time you get down to that place where there's so many poisons being dumped in the water, that really represents your gut health producing a lot of extra toxins, because other things like yeasts start growing up and they release LPS toxins, and that gets a little deeper than what we want to get into for this video today, but they start releasing all kinds of various toxins. Not only that, but when your gut microbiome is sick, you know, most of your brain chemicals are produced in your gut. You know, most of your immunity is wrapped up in how well your gut is working. And so if your immune system isn't working, if you're not producing enough brain chemicals, if you're not producing enough hormones properly, and your mitochondria don't have everything that they need to give you plenty of energy, how much you want to bet you're going to feel like crapola? You know? Right? But then, of course, with all of this going on in the body, now you get to the point where there's a lot of extra inflammation in the water, right? And you do have some good days when you're not quite going next to those boulders, but as soon as you hit those serious rapids with those bigger boulders in the water, now, boom, you know, now you feel bad. And there are so many different things happening in your body biochemically that it's next to impossible for you or your doctor to figure this out unless they understand the root causes of chronic illness.
Right.
And I'm sure your brain has already started to go click, 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 click. Like, I get it, I understand. There's all these different toxins, okay? Now, so by the time you get to that place where they can finally diagnose it, because, you know, back when you're in the gut mess, most of the time people are not able to be diagnosed at that point. Your labs still look mostly normal, or they're just not bad enough. The antibodies aren't high enough for them to classify and diagnose as an autoimmune disease. And do you know that it takes the average person from the time they start having multiple symptoms that they're really starting to be scared over, you know, they know something's wrong with their body, not just one little thing. By the time you start feeling like that, to the time you finally get a diagnosis, is anywhere from 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years of you feeling like crap, bouncing from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, trying to figure out what's wrong. And all of them are running your labs and going, well, okay, you look fine. Here's your Prozac. You're overreacting. And you're not overreacting, right? I want to make sure that you hear this out loud. You know your body better than anybody. You live in it, and you know when it's not doing well and when it is doing well. And no doctor, no health professional should ever look at you and say, you're distressed, you need a Prozac, or you need a Xanax. Okay? Yeah, you're stressed. You're dealing with a body that's not working right. And you need someone to hear you and understand. And instead of trying to throw duct tape on your boat, you need someone who knows what's happening upstream. Okay? So that's the second layer of the story today. And I hope that by listening to this, you understand that
How much
your
respect?
illness, the diagnosis that you finally get way downstream at the end of the river, okay, where the doctors are coming in putting the duct tape on you, you have to understand that that is not the name of your illness, whatever they call it, the lupus, the scleroderma, the Hashimoto's, the cancer, the Parkinson's, okay? That is not the reason why you're sick. Hope you understand that now. That's just the name that they give you when the inflammation gets so bad and your body has been under all these different toxic insults and all the cellular deficiencies and all the gut dysbiosis that finally you start showing a conglomeration of symptoms, and then they give it a name. And your antibodies get high enough that match that particular name, and then they give you some Band-Aids for that particular name. But you didn't all of a sudden get Parkinson's disease. It didn't just happen because of your genetics. Do you know that your genes only cause about 2 to 10% of all chronic illness? And 10%, that's the high range. It's very rare. Your genes are only responsible for about 2% of why you feel like crap right now. That's the science. That's not the world according to Dory. That's the science. And I've got the papers that you can read that directly in my book.
I never did finish.
That means that your boat, so okay, good. Your boat might have started off with, okay, maybe a little broken piece of plastic on the front of your boat, right? But your boat floats just fine unless you get hit with some rapids or you get hit, with some debris or somebody's throwing rocks at your boat, right? Your boat works just fine, okay? And it's the same with your genetics. You don't all of a sudden get heart disease just because mama and daddy or somebody in your family tree has heart disease. But does that whole family, if that whole family is a bunch of boats in that same water and everybody's eating the same crappy food and everybody's getting the same toxic insults and everybody's living very stressful lifestyles and nobody's sleeping really well and some of them are smoking and some of them are doing drugs and then yeah, those same genes will predispose towards a similar illness. Okay? But it's not the genes' fault. They didn't just all of a sudden start going rogue. It's the environmental insults on the genes that cause the disease. There's a very famous geneticist that said, your genes load the gun. But nothing happens with a loaded gun that just sits in a cupboard, okay? It's your environment and your choices in how you live in that environment a lot of times, not always, but most of the time, your choices can change the way your genes express. So that means that there's hope, okay? So now I'm going to go, if you'll allow me to the third and the deepest layer of this story. And I just gave you a little hint about it. So far, you know that you're the boat, right? You're the boat in the story. But I want to lovingly, compassionately help you to see where you might also be other players in this story. Because my hope is that if you can see how you are playing other parts in this story, that you will realize that you don't have to play that part anymore.
Come over here. I'm tired of looking at the
You don't have to
karate.
play that part anymore That means
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
changing the upstream drivers of your current illness. So, what if we go back to the beginning of the story again and say the little girl put the boat in the water. She's playing with the boat, she's watching the boat. It's a beautiful day. Then she just decides that she's just going to sit right there on the banks and just watch the boat no matter what it does. She's just going to watch it. She's not going to throw the little rocks at it. She's not going to poke it with the stick. Right? Who are you at that part of the story? You're the boat, right? Are you also the little girl? Yeah. If you choose to eat better foods, if you choose to think differently, and by that, you guys know me. So I love Jesus. And the Bible says, take every thought captive to Christ, that live in trust, live in love, live in peace. Don't live in unforgiveness. Don't live rehashing your traumas. Don't live like that.
I just got a new heart.
Now, as the boat goes downstream a little bit more, and you know, like what was the next part of the story where there was the construction debris, right? Now, that could be like eating pretty badly, you know, like your favorite snack is at midnight and it's Doritos and it's Cheetos and it's ice cream and you do that all the time.
Right, that's the wrong person to do that
So I
around,
want to
okay?
ask,
Because we already think that
you're the
something is
boat,
wrong here with us. So
you're the boat,
don't
but could you also be
think something's wrong with us.
the construction company throwing
That we can
things
think
into
the same,
the
right?
water?
Yeah, we can think the same thing, right?
You kind of remind me of the movie. You was talking to some. You probably was talking to somebody. And yeah,
Back upstream.
that's
You know,
all
instead
reason
of the
she.
doctors down at the very end of the stream
Right,
just
I go
putting
through
duct
this every
tape
day.
on the boat,
He thinks I'm crazy,
they
right?
walked all the way back
He
upstream
thinks something's wrong with me, right?
and they said, "Oh, sweet little girl, causing
What do you think?
mitochondrial damage."
He,
You
no,
shouldn't do that
no,
anymore.
no, right? That's not why he's over here so
And they
much,
taught the
right? He
little
thinks,
girl,
no, right? He doesn't. I don't need anybody to look after me. I'm not
go to the construction
illiterate, and I'm not.
and they
Oh,
say,
right? You keep me
"Hey,
company.
you
You
construction
said he's over
owners,
here every day because
do
of
you
me.
understand
It's not because of me.
that when you're throwing this debris in the water, you're actually causing this to happen to the boat?" And so the construction people say, "Oh, okay, well, we're not going to do that anymore." Now, we could go down the way a little bit when the poisons are being thrown in the water. Yeah, that one's a harder one to deal with, you know. And we could go off on a tangent and get political here, and we can get all mad at, you know, big pharma, big food, big ag. We could go down that route, but we're not going to. We're just going to say, hey, if you need to avoid the poisons that are coming in on your food, or that are, you know, the glyphosate and the pesticides and herbicides that are sprayed on your fruits and vegetables, or the antibiotics and the insults from the way they raise our meat, you can choose to eat a different way. We're not going to stop companies like McDonald's from pushing just absolutely pure poison on us. They're still going to be there. We're not going to be able to wipe them all out. Okay. We're not going to change our grocery store substantially, even though RFK Jr. is trying to. Okay. He's trying. Too late. It's not going to change that much, okay? You know, like he just put that thing out the other day. Oh, guess what? Oh, sorry to be so sarcastic right now. But guess what? Aren't you guys so happy that they're taking that Kellogg's is taking the dye out of Trix in America when they've been doing it in Europe for years? Aren't you so happy? Aren't you just so happy about that? Yay. And the truth is, everything in that product that we feed to our kids and that we shovel in our mouths is poison. It's not just the dyes. Okay, but I digress. If you're the little girl in the story, if you're also the construction site, if you're also, you know, not paying attention to the poisons that are in the water, and you just don't care, or you allow yourself to eat them, or you have that attitude that, well, it's too expensive to eat healthy, so therefore I'm not going to. None of that is true. Okay? You can eat healthy. If you stop eating certain junk, that saves money so that you can put that into good healthy food. And yeah, you could do it, because I did it when I was sick. I had already lost all my savings from my science career. I was living on $1,300 a month in Social Security disability and food stamps, and that's all I had. And I was raising my granddaughter by myself without a husband, without any other means of support. And I was still able to eat right. Okay. And so nobody can convince me that it's too expensive to get healthy. No one can convince me of that, because I lived it. I know exactly what it's like to be so sick that you feel like you're on death's door. You can barely get up to make yourself a meal. So, you know, please don't give me the excuse that it's just easier to drive through McDonald's. Okay. It's just as easy to make some scrambled eggs, and a lot cheaper and a lot healthier. So, you know, yeah, you can do this. You absolutely can. So while you might not be the chemical company in the story, that's not your fault. But could you be like maybe a subsidiary of the chemical company that just kind of rerouted the poisons so that they didn't harm anybody? Mm-hmm. And you certainly do have that control. Could you learn how to eat better according to your genetics? Yeah, you can. Could you do cellular testing so that you can see exactly what your cells have and what they don't have? And then could you eat and live your life according to what your cells need? Yeah, you can. And trust me, you feel a lot better when you're doing it. You really do. You do. It's amazing. Can you do the advanced testing that looks at your toxic overload and sees what all those toxins are? And then can you, and yeah, this is the harder part of getting well. And usually those people who are really, really chronically ill, you do have to walk through this part. Okay. But yeah, you do have to, you know, do some stricter protocols. You know, yeah, for whatever reason, your body has gotten to a place where it's very sick. So now, yeah, you do have to do some repair work. You know, so you can expect this to be a job. Right? You can expect it to be a challenge that you need to walk through for maybe a year, maybe 2 years, depending on how long you've been sick and how bad you are. It took me 2 years. Uh but I felt like I knew I was doing the right thing the whole time. And sure, I went through some emotional ups and downs, and sure, my You know, my doctor had to give me a lot of hugs and remind me that, yes, you're doing the right thing and you are on the right path. You are getting better. Yes, yes, yes. So that's all just a normal part of getting well. But oh my gosh, you can do it. You really can. You really can. It wasn't that I got lucky. It wasn't that I wasn't that sick to begin with. I've had so many people say that. Well, the only reason why she got well is, and all these people who get well, they weren't that sick to begin with. Oh my gosh. It's just not true. You absolutely, you can go back and you can learn how not to be the little girl throwing the rocks and the sticks. You can learn how not to be the construction site. You can learn how to divert those poisons. Okay. You can learn how to make those rapids from the inflammation diminish. And I want to, I want to dive a little bit deeper at this point. I've got just a little more time, and I want to dive just a little bit deeper and explain once you're kind of at the downstream part of your chronic illness, whether you have a diagnosis yet or not, it doesn't matter. You know, there's plenty of people out there with, you know, the new name for it, it used to just be called allergies, but now the new name of it is MCAS or SIRS. And there's, you know, there's deeper biochemical reasons for it. Absolutely. But not just that disease. Like every autoimmune disease has the same immunological component that the toxins, the lifestyle practices, the cellular deficiencies are all causing the gut dysbiosis, and all of this together is then causing your symptoms. And depending on your various genetics, because you're a little bit different than everybody else, that is what depends on what disease you will get. Okay. And it's another reason why so many people, once you develop one autoimmune disease, and it's usually the first one is going to be something like a thyroid illness, either hypothyroidism or sometimes hyperthyroidism. Okay. But what's true that the hallmark of all chronic illnesses is fatigue. No gas. Your Lamborghini ain't going nowhere. You have to give those cells everything they need to produce that energy. And you can't be constantly giving them the junk food, the poisons, the bad lifestyle practices, lack of sleep, the stress, right? But once you get to that place where your body is, you've been under this insult for a while, you're way down the stream. Now your immune system starts doing this thing that in immunotoxicology, we call it immune intolerance. Intolerance, meaning it basically starts reacting to everything it sees. It's so pissed off. It's just like, all right, you know, it's just like a cranky bear. And I always use this analogy, this little story to help people to understand, because they're like, well, why can't I eat anything? Everything I eat makes me sick, or I can't even walk through the candle aisle at Walmart without getting sick, and then I'm down for 2 days, or, you know, why does it happen to me and not other people? And the reason why is because your immune system, you're way downstream. See, you're not upstream with the little girl anymore. You're way downstream. You've been through lots of rapids. Your immune system is constantly seeing the toxins and the cellular deficiencies and the stress and the bad lifestyle practices. That's the way your immune system has been living for a long time. And so here's the analogy. if you're in your house and a burglar breaks in, you'll freak out. You're gonna freak out. You're gonna pull out your gun, shoot the burglar. Boom. Okay. What if it happened the next night? Another burglar. Pull out your gun, shoot, stress out, blah, blah, blah. Take a deep breath. What if the following week it happens again? And it happens again. And it happens again. And it happens again. What if it kept happening and it happened like over 100 times in 1 year that you had burglars try to come in your house? And you're going to the police and they're doing nothing. It's kind of like going to the doctor and them running your labs and saying, "Oh, your labs are normal, you're fine," and them doing nothing for you. Them refusing to believe that you have some level of inflammation, and they need to find out what that root cause is so that they can stop the problem right then and there in the beginning of the problem. But they don't do that. They let the burglar keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. And how do you think you would feel as a person in that house? Would you feel safe? Heck no, you would not feel safe. And this is what we call immune intolerance. Your immune system is just freaking out over every little thing. It's just on high alert. It is so used to seeing poisons and toxins. And by this time, your gut health is really a wreck, and all these toxins from overgrown bacterias and yeasts and things are being released to your immune system. And so your immune system is constantly seeing lots of toxins. It's even seeing like big pieces of broccoli come through. And it's like, why didn't this broccoli get digested properly? And now it's going to build inflammation to that piece of broccoli. So you're thinking, I'm eating healthy. I'm eating my broccoli. I'm doing everything right. But by that time, you've got such severe gut dysbiosis that now you can't even handle eating broccoli anymore. Okay? So you have to understand that all these hundreds of thousands of people in the world who are even reversing Alzheimer's, and I know that that sounds incredible, but it is true. Go look up Dr. Dale Bredesen and his work, and there's countless others. It's not just him. Okay? People who are reversing stage 4, stage 3 cancer. People who are reversing, Hashimoto's is easy to reverse. Okay? People who are reversing diabetes. People who are reversing many autoimmune diseases. And, maybe by the time you have such a bad problem that you've developed multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's, some of those very, very severe end stage autoimmune diseases, Crohn's, lupus, okay? Maybe you're not going to reverse 100%. But trust me, your body is amazing. Your body is not permanently broken. Otherwise, you'd be dead. And you're not. You're listening to this video, which means your body is still got the capacity to do cellular regeneration. You're doing it at the level of 300 million cells every minute. If you take the boat out of the poison water, okay, if you let the boat heal, get it out of the poison, get it out of the toxins. Make sure that the boat has everything it needs. Actually, sand that boat a little bit. Actually, repaint it. Actually, fix it. Actually, repair the wooden parts. Actually, replace those plastic parts. Actually, give it a new sail. And you can do that. Your body can do amazing things. Your boat can heal. It really can. But you need to learn how to not be the little girl. Don't be the construction site. be the person who diverts the poisons. Don't create extra inflammation in your body by not aligning with God's design for the way He created you. Take your thoughts captive to Christ. Walk in love, walk in forgiveness. And yes, you absolutely can repair your boat. And will your boat be 100% perfect, just like brand new? Probably not. But you don't want it to be. You want it to have a little character. You want to have learned the lessons that you needed to learn while walking through this crisis in your life. You're going to be a stronger boat. You're going to be a smarter boat. You're going to know, that you're not going to be in water that has rocks and poison and sticks and debris. And, you're going to know that. You're going to be stronger emotionally for going through this. You're going to be so much stronger spiritually for going through this, because everybody who's got a chronic illness knows if you don't have solid grounding, if you don't have the Lord, if you don't have people that love you, that you're solid with, you're solid, you're okay, you're safe, you're protected, right? You develop that going through a severe chronic illness. If you're wise, you do. You learn how to get rid of the people in your life that they probably should have never been a part of your life in the first place, because they're part of the toxins that are damaging your boat. So this is what we do here at the Cellular Healing and Longevity Center. Is the biggest job that we do is help you to align with God's design, not just so that you can feel better physically. Really? I mean, that's wonderful. And this works. It really does. But that's not the main goal. What does the Bible say? That, what if you have all the riches in the world, but you don't have love? What's the point of life? What's the point? So what if you have perfect health, but you don't have love? You don't have the Lord. You don't know that you were created with purpose and that you are loved more than you could ever even begin to imagine. That's what life is all about. Love. And being spiritually grounded in that love so that you feel protected, you feel safe, you feel solid, you feel joy, you feel like you have purpose, like that you were created for amazing things, and you just get up every morning and say, yes, Lord, what are we going to do today? This is what we're here to do. This is what the Lord put the calling on my life for. And He's the one who started this company anyway. Like, I didn't even want to. And that's the truth. That was 10 years ago. And we've helped so many people now. I can't even imagine living my life not doing this. Like even when I go on vacation, I find somebody to talk to about their health. I mean, it's just my daughters look at me like you're supposed to be on vacation. It's just like a part of me. I want to see everybody whole and healthy and living in their purpose. And it gets to another, really cool level when you realize that for those of us who are Christians and, we're in church, look around. So many people in church are unhealthy. They're sick. They don't have a deeper understanding of the root causes. They don't understand that they're not just the boat, they're also the little girl in the construction site and the disaster of the bridge causing all the inflammation. They don't understand because they've never been taught this. I mean, I didn't know. I wasn't taught it in my PhD and master's programs either. Right? I had to learn this after the fact. I had to dig deeper into the science that was out there, not just the science that the pharmaceutical company who paid for my school wanted me to learn. Hello. So understand that you really can feel better. You really can take control of those upstream drivers of your illness. I don't ever want to hear anybody who's listened to this video ever say again, well, I'm sick because of my lupus. You're not sick because of your lupus. Your lupus is just down at the very, very end of the stream. You're sick because all those things that are happening upstream, no one has ever gone upstream and said to you, you need to get rid of those upstream drivers of your lupus. And it's not your lupus anyway. Right? You don't have to accept that. I can't stand it when I'm on Facebook or Instagram and I see these memes pop up that says, well, chronic illness is this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And all they're doing is putting out this message of defeat, a message of limitation. Well, I just have to accept this. No, you don't. No, you do not. You're a child of God. You are created for much more than living in the lie of a preventable chronic illness. I say that out loud, and I know that I upset people when I say that sometimes, but you need to hear the truth. 5-10 years from now down the line, when this is accepted in medicine as it's starting to become now, but when it's fully accepted, everybody will look back and say that people like me out there, people like Mark Hyman, people like a lot of these amazing practitioners, much smarter than me, who have been saying this for longer than I have, because I learned how to heal from them. Everybody's going to look back and say, well, they were right, because we are. And we know we're right because we're all feeling better. And if we could just convince you to do what we're doing, you'd be feeling better too. But there's this whole cognitive dissonance thing that if anyone comes up to you and starts trying to tell you something different from what you have thought to be true your entire life, you're going to think that that person is some kind of a scammer or is lying to you or is trying to hurt you in some way, when that's not the truth at all. There's a lot of really great scientists and doctors and nurse practitioners and health coaches who are all saying the same thing that I'm saying. And we're all just trying to convince you that, yeah, we know what those upstream drivers of your disease are. Keep my grammar straight. And we know that you have control over most of those drivers. And we also know that if you take those drivers away, the toxins, the heavy metals, the plastics, the parasites, the Epstein-Barr virus that, wants to stay chronic, the the cellular deficiencies, if you know your genetics and you're eating and living your life according to your genetics and you're supporting those weird little wonky genes that everybody has, and okay, they do lead to extra inflammation and that's why people get sick. But it's not the whole reason. It's just a little tiny, tiny little piece of the puzzle. And you do have control over that piece of the puzzle if you just know what those genes are and you know how to take care of them. You know how to mitigate them. We say you can turn the bad genes off and you can turn the good genes on. That's not exactly true. It's just an analogy. It's kind of true, though, that you can turn down the expression of inflammation from not triggering particular genes. And you can turn up the protein expression of good things that cause healing. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. So it's, this is not woo-woo. It's not pseudoscience. It's real science. And there's tons of papers. And so if you want my book and you want the beginning mitochondrial program, so if you want to go upstream for your chronic illness, and you want to start with where the little girl is throwing the rocks and the sticks at the boat, which you have to. You just have to, because that's the mitochondrial energy problem right there. And we know that from the science today, August of 2026. We know that if you don't start by healing the mitochondria, you're not going to have enough energy. It's a little bit of a balancing act because you've got to make sure while at the same time you're giving your body what it needs in order to heal those mitochondria, but you've also got to, start to get rid of some of the toxins that are causing the problem with the mitochondria. So it's not something that's just an easy wham, bam, thank you, ma'am thing to do. But it's absolutely doable. Like anybody can do it. And you have to start somewhere. You really do. And so we start everybody with our energy regeneration program. And we've made a commitment to keep this beginning program super, super, like ridiculously stupid cheap for people. So we basically give it away for $27. And it comes with the program with the videos. Also, my book that has all the scientific literature in it. So if you are a geek and you want to go try to read some of those papers, I tried to do more review papers to make them easier to read, because I know like every sentence of a scientific journal, you have to stop and look up a word. Right? And they're a pain in the butt to read if you don't read that scientific language. So I understand. So I've tried to give you guys the easier review articles to read. And of course, if anybody ever wants the harder articles, you just let me know. I'll send them. Okay. Gary Brecka did that the other day. I like Gary Brecka. He's another Christian. I like what he's doing in the world. I don't always agree with his marketing, but he got rich from it. So, I guess he knows more than I do. But he said, comment blah, blah, blah on one of his posts, and I'll send you the literature. And he sent out this paper that you literally have to be a full-blown scientist to read this paper. Okay, you literally do. Like the average person could not read this, but it did have the title on the paper. So at least people could read the title and realize, oh yeah, there's science behind what he's saying. And he was talking about cellular deficiencies, by the way. He was talking about a study that was done, and there's hundreds of them at this point, but he was talking about a study that was done about how if your cells are missing this or this or this or this, you're not going to have the particular function, and therefore you will not have enough for your mitochondria to do what they need to do, and you won't have enough energy, and you'll have all these symptoms like brain fog and muscle aches and pains and headaches and gut dysbiosis. And, right? So anyway, He was proving his point, but he just did it in a really funny way. Anyway, I digress again. It's getting late. I want to make sure that if there are any questions that I get to those. And so let me look on a couple of different pages here and see what we got. Don't have a lot of people in the Riverside today, but that's probably my fault for showing up late today. Which is not really my fault. It was a technical fault, but all right, let me just take a look here and see. Okay. Brenda, the same question that we get like almost every single week. So I'm going to answer it again for you because it is an important question to answer. Why is it that you feel like you're eating right, you're exercising, you're doing everything that you can do, and you still have multiple symptoms that you have to deal with? Okay. I try to answer this question as simply as possible. If you understand that whole story of all the different things that are being thrown into the river that attack the boat or that cause the boat problems or that cause the crazy rapids of inflammation, then you understand it's not just the food. But food is a big part of it because what's the number one way that we're exposed to things? It's the things that are on the end of our fork. So if you're eating things, you're putting things into your body every day, okay? And you're putting good things in, okay, yes. But I'll pretty much guarantee, and it would be a rare thing if I were wrong about this, by the way, that you didn't eat beautifully, perfectly, according to what you think is perfect. You didn't eat that way your whole life, right? That there was a time in your life where you didn't eat healthy, or you were under a great deal of stress, or you were exposed to some things maybe you didn't even know you were exposed to, right? Or you went through some pretty hellish traumas, right? So it's not just the food. Now that you've had all these insults, now that your boat is downstream, your boat has gone through all these things, and your boat is downstream. And say by changing your diet, you're going back to the construction site. And you're also doing something about the poisons coming in on your food. So you're doing a couple of really big things there. You're keeping the boulders from and all the, the cement and all the junk from going into your boat. And at the same time, you're diverting toxins. You're, trying to eat organic. You have a clean source of water. You're not drinking tap water or bottled water anymore, right? Okay. All right. But what about the other toxins that are being dumped into your river? What about by the time you get all the way downstream, you walk back up and you fix those things? Okay, that's great, but it's not enough. At this point, you got that bridge that fell in. You got these other boulders. You've totally wrecked your gut health. You've got dysbiosis. Just changing your diet does not change gut dysbiosis. As a matter of fact, there are plenty of people who try to change to a really healthy ketogenic diet when they've been sick for a while, and we literally have to put them on carnivore. Like they can't even tolerate vegetables anymore because their gut is in such bad shape. Okay. And they think, well, but I'm eating my vegetables and I'm trying to drink my smoothies and I'm right. And they can't tolerate it because their gut is in such bad shape. So there is repair work that has to be done. And there are specific protocols that need to be followed so that you can get your gut health back, so that you can start digesting and absorbing better again. And yes, that includes making sure that you're eating really healthy sources of whole foods and not all the junk that you see in the grocery store, no matter what the label says. Because, well, okay, if it's a label and it's a box and it literally says it has 2 things in it, like avocado oil and one other thing and salt or something and potatoes, okay. But that's still, most of the time, you have to go to some extremes to get the gut to start responding properly again. You have to do some protocols to make sure that the immune system calms down again. You certainly have to do your limbic system work. Like every single person on this planet who comes to me and tells me that, but I am eating perfectly now. I am eating perfectly now. Number one, if I make them do a food journal and I start looking at everything that they're eating, I can find things that they're eating that they shouldn't be eating, that they didn't know was causing some issue, right? Just because they don't know what they don't know, it's not their fault. Okay. They're not scientists, they're not doctors, and even doctors don't know this stuff, but they don't know. So it's not their fault, right? At the same time, very few people have had the genetics testing and the cellular deficiencies testing that shows us exactly what you should be eating. Now, this is part of precision medicine today, that we know that with these very advanced tests, we can know exactly the way you should be taking care of your genetics for the rest of your life. And with the cellular testing, we can know exactly what your cells are missing so we can give those things back. And when you do it in that way, in a precise way, you're not guessing anymore and people get better so much faster. That's a fact check. So it's not just your food. Okay. It's all the other toxins. It's all the problems with your gut health that have built up over the years. It's your immune system being out of whack because the burglar kept coming in hundreds of times. And now the immune system needs to be taught how to be safe again. You need to do your limbic system work, your brain remapping work that helps everything to just calm down. Because at this point, being in a chronic illness, hey, I was there too. I know how it feels to be freaking sick from the time you're 12 years old to the time you're 55 years old. Okay? Okay? I know what happens right here. What happens between your ears. Okay? And it's hard. And it's horribly stressful. And relationships go crazy because people don't understand your illness, and let's not get started on that one. Okay, it's hard. I saw somebody on the internet the other day, and it was a post about SIRS and MCAS, and the lady said, I was just recently diagnosed and my doctor didn't tell me anything. And I know that there's probably things that I can do, but I just don't know what any of them are. And I was like, oh, thank you, Lord, for showing me this post, because it just like popped up on my stream. I didn't go looking in that group. It just like popped up. And I'm like, cool. So I started answering her question. And as I was giving the deeper answers to the root causes, this other lady jumps in and she says, it's hell. Just get used to it. There isn't anything you can do. And I'm like, yeah, this is how chronic illnesses make us feel. It does feel like hell when you've been dealing with for a long time. It is frustrating. It is depressing. It is anxiety producing. Okay. But we need to walk you back out of that. We need to go upstream. And we need to help you understand that You do not have to stay there. This is not a permanent situation. You do not have to live there. So before I let you guys go today, I would love you to spend some time listening to Joni Eareckson Tada's YouTube channel or her Instagram or, wherever you like to hang out online. Joni Eareckson Tada. And if you don't know her story, just go listen to her for a little while. Okay. Now, here's a lady who does have permanent damage to her body. Okay. Due to an accident. Even she will tell you there are things that she can do to feel better, and she does them. Even though this is a different situation than a chronic illness, but she still has major inflammation in her body because of the injury. But she also knows that she has to keep her inflammation low. She can't add inflammation to a body that is already broken. And in her case, that is the situation. She loves the Lord, and she knows how to keep her inflammation lower so she can still be an amazing leader in God's kingdom, even with severe paralysis. Okay. Now, if she can do it, and she can still be this amazing leader that's, running camps for kids and just doing all the different things that Joni Eareckson Tada does. If she can do it, dig deep. You can do it, because your situation, most of the time, most of the people who come to me, it's very rare that I talk to someone like Joni who is absolutely, their body was pretty much destroyed by a severe accident of some kind, or by a severe birth defect or something like that. Okay. Most of the time, the people who find us are the people who have the autoimmune diseases, cancer, Alzheimer's. Okay. Those are the people that find us. Or just, they have multiple symptoms and they haven't been diagnosed yet. And so, they feel like no doctor can help them and they're being gaslit. Okay. But they're very sick. They've got a lot of issues. So that's what I'm talking about here. Us people who develop autoimmune diseases, chronic illnesses of many different kinds. Most of the time, these things were preventable. We know that now from the science. Most of the time, they were preventable. Most of the time, we can go back upstream and we can take care of those various root causes in many different ways. There's many, many, many ways that we can do that. And it isn't that hard. Yeah, you got to change your life. Yes, you do. You have to be committed. You have to be intentional. You have to be willing to change your life and not keep living with your boat in that same river. You cannot live in that river and be healthy. You just cannot. So yeah, you got to get your boat out of that river. And yes, you do have control over getting your boat out of that river. You absolutely do. You absolutely do. That's why there are hundreds of thousands of people like me in the world who are speaking truth to you and helping you to know that you can do this. You really can. You can do this. You can feel much better than you do right now. Does anyone have a crystal ball? Does anyone know whether you're going to get 100% better? Now, I have seen clients get to where they say, I'm 100% better. I'm fine. Thank you. Right? I have seen that. Most of the time I see, especially people who are really, really, really ill and they've been ill for decades and now they're just starting to figure out their root causes and get well. Most of the time I see people in average, they're getting like 75, 85% better. And that's by their description. They're telling me, I'm asking them to put a number on it. And they're telling me, I feel like 75% better. And they're like, I'll take it. Uh-huh. I'll take it. I might not be perfect, but hey, I can do so much more than what I used to do. So yeah, thank you. Right? They're happy with that. And then of course me, I'm like, okay, well then let's do this and let's do that. Let's just keep optimizing. And they're like, no, I'm good. See you later. I'm like, okay, go live your life. Right? Whatever. It's all good. It's all good. And I'm sure if I could hand you a little red pill, now that's the problem. People think that they can fix this with a supplement or with a 30-day detox. And I'm sorry. I sure wish that were true. I sure wish that were reality. But it is not reality. You are not going to fix years and years and years of chronic inflammation that have many upstream drivers with a 30-day detox and a simple diet change. You're just not going to do it. Now, will you start the process of feeling better with a diet change? Big time. Because remember what I said, scientists believe that it's about 50% of your problem. So will you get results by doing that? Yes, you will. Sometimes those results can be dramatic, really dramatic. Sometimes they're just, all right, I feel 30% better. I changed my diet. Okay, so now what else do I need to do? What other upstream drivers do I need to take control over so that I can feel better and better and better and better? This is how we heal, folks. And it does. It takes time. It takes intention. It takes real change. It takes really like trusting God, lining up with Him, realizing that we're probably not living the way He created us to live. And most of the time, that's a bigger spiritual issue and a bigger emotional issue than it is a physical issue. And that's why the spiritual and the emotional are causing so much extra inflammation in our bodies because we're not lined up like the Lord created us to be. And that's not a judgment. We're all human. We all screw up. We're all a mess in progress, right? Right? But we feel better if we're trusting the Lord while we're walking through that mess and and we're actively asking Him, okay, what can I do differently? How can I pull some of those upstream drivers away from my illness so they're not making my immune system angry anymore? They're not creating all those rapids anymore. And so therefore you feel better. And then we look at your test results and we see that, gee, your antibodies are disappearing. Your immune system is no longer reacting to this thing because it's not there anymore. Or there's only a little bit of it now. And so your immune system doesn't have to produce all those antibodies and all that inflammation and make all those rapids and make all those symptoms that made the doctor diagnose you with the lupus or the scleroderma or the whatever. Right? Right? I sure hope that makes sense to you today. Because I want nothing more than to see all of us living exactly in our purpose the way God intended us to. Not creating these memes on Facebook that just talk about how limited we are because woe is me, we've got this diagnosis. No. I was there once too, so I know how it feels to just accept it. No, you don't. I was accepting it while I was eating Entenmann's Danishes for breakfast. Hello. I was causing my own illness on some level because I didn't know better. Nobody gave me a nutrition class in my PhD program in autoimmunity because they don't do that. No one taught me about genetic expression based on your food. It's the science of nutrigenomics, and it's huge. Hello. And I could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to because it's 4:30 and I want to make sure that we let you guys go for the day and this video doesn't get way too long because it's already pretty long. Right. So I hope that that was a nice little masterclass for you, all wrapped up in a story. And I just pray that it helped you. And I want to make sure that before I go, that I make sure that I put this link for. Okay. So first of all, I want to make sure this promotional flyer that talks about the Cellular Healing Center and everything that we do here in our ministry and all the good things that we're doing in the world. And my credentials are there and all of that good jazz and all my teammates. Okay. So I want to make sure that you guys have that. And then I also want to make sure that you have the link for our 7-day fast flare protocol, which I promise to give to everybody when they listen to this video. And this is a way to knock down inflammation fast. So it's not a cure-all, but if you're in the middle of a flare and you're really feeling bad and you want to get out of that flare, this is the fastest known scientific way of doing it. Okay. And most people can do this just fine. If you find you need a little help, we're always here to answer your questions. Okay. And then one more thing that I want to put here for you. I want you to have our energy regeneration membership. Okay. If you're serious about finding all those different upstream drivers that are specific in your body so that you can take back your control and start doing something to stop the inflammation and to get yourself feeling better and to actually reverse your diagnosis, which many, many people can. At least you can reverse it most of the way. Okay. So if you're serious about doing that, we have a program here. It's $97 a month, which most people can afford. And yeah, you get some private work with me for that. Yes, you do. You get a full root cause analysis. You get a testing analysis. We analyze your labs. We don't leave any stone unturned. You get a community. You get other people to work with and talk to, so you're not alone. There's so many good things about that program. And we do it at a very low cost on purpose. Sure, we have higher ticket programs that, when people are really, really sick and, we do your testing and we see things are really out of alignment. Sure, right? We do that work as well. But we want to be able to help as many people at a lowest cost as possible. So that's why we make the self-guided energy regeneration for only $27. And you probably saw that when you first entered the Rise Heal Challenge. And if you want to see that again and just grab that, that's all self-guided. You can do that on your own. And that's the videos with the book and the basic mitochondrial protocol. You can get that for $27. Okay. Super cheap. Just go to risehealchallenge.com. And when you put your information in on the second page, it'll automatically take you to the second page and talk to you about everything that's included and how it can help you for $27. And then we also do the $97 a month for the people who really want, they want more personalized service. They want a little extra work with me and my team. They want the community. They don't want to do this on their own, self-guided with just, the basics, right? So you'll also get that full program plus, all the other extra benefits. So I want to make sure that I put that in here for you too. This is our ministry. This is us keeping our precision root cause healthcare system as low cost as possible because we want you to not be limited. We want you to be able to align with God's design and be able to do everything that He created you to do, achieve everything that He created you to achieve. That's what life is for. And if you can do better, if you can feel better, I'm telling you, this is the way to do it. There is no other way that we know of scientifically, right? And if there is something, you guys let me know. But, I'm a geek. I study this stuff all the time, and I've got lots of smarter people around me too. So we're on the cutting edge, and we know that this works if we can just get you to do it. So you've got those links. Grab what you would like to grab. And if you have questions, I want to make sure that I always put our phone number in here. And you can get in touch with us 760-460-4349. And I'll put that in the chat. You can get in touch with us. We don't have a receptionist that answers the phone, and I refuse to do the whole AI thing that a lot of companies have. So just leave your message, and a member of our team will get back to you. And depending on how busy people are, it might just be me. You might just get lucky, and we we might just be able to talk. But I love getting to know all my clients anyway. So, all right. So, I love you guys. Take care. Get some information under your belt. I hope this helped you. And if you have any questions, just call the office and we'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye-bye.